Good morning. Welcome to the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities PPP Eligibility and Understanding the Application Process virtual workshop. I'm so happy today to have our illustrious mayor with us. He is not only an advocate for our small business community, he's also someone out there trying to make sure that resources come into our community to help us at all times, not just during the pandemic. So I'm going to turn it over to him and let him welcome everyone. Thank you.
No, Melissa, thank you so much to you and your incredible team for constantly working, you're right, pre-pandemic to ensure that we're prepared for these challenging times in which we're living in. But really since the pandemic, you guys have shown the incredible leadership, reaching out to the private sector, reaching out to partners, not just in the city, the municipal corporation that we are, but also other governments to try and make sure we do everything we possibly can to help businesses through what for many of them is probably the most difficult time they've ever seen. We all watched the last round of PPP. A lot of our small and more vulnerable businesses were not able to participate in the program for a number of different reasons. Some didn't have significant banking relationships. Some, even when they had banking relationships that were longstanding, maybe the bank partner didn't think it was important enough to make sure that they had access to the capital. And then also, just as almost everything that comes from the federal government at times, it can be tough to navigate the process or not having a clear understanding of the program requirements and application process. So the purpose of the webinar this morning is obviously to address some of those issues so that we can, at the end of the day, see more of our small businesses from across Columbia and across the region, for that matter, be able to access PPP funding. So today you're going to hear from Greg White, who's the district director of the SBA. He's done a great job partnering with us over the years, and we're going to learn a lot about PPP program eligibility requirements. And then also you're going to hear from Dominik Mjartan, the president and CEO of Optus Bank, the only African-American owned bank in our state, the only CDFI bank in Columbia that's participating in the PPP program. During the last round, Optus not only stepped up in a meaningful way to the plate to provide PPP loans to minority-owned businesses, but also to provide smaller loans in amounts that the larger banks sometimes didn't think was worthwhile, just to be frank. So lastly, you're also going to hear from partners that are also able to provide assistance as you prepare your application. So take good notes. Share them widely, and hopefully at the end of this process, we'll see a significant amount of capital flowing into your businesses and allow you, once we come out of this pandemic, which we will, to thrive and fully participate in the American economy. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you again to you and your entire team. Let's go do some good.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to turn it over to Aisha just to give you an overview of our office and some of the resources that we have available through the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunity. A lot of people are not aware of the different services that we have. We have a loan program here. We have a number of different types of loans, and we also have our Resilient Columbia EDA, Economic Development Administration loan that we just received, and this has been received directly in regards to COVID. So Aisha, can you go over some of those things with us this morning?
Yes, ma'am. So first we're going to get started with our commercial lending program, which has been pretty popular, of course, lately. We provide financial assistance to startup and existing businesses for growth, expansion, retention, and the creation of new jobs, and assistance in the redevelopment of commercial corridors. Most of the funding that we've received lately will go through our commercial lending program, which our loan officer is Brett Whiting, and he'll be happy to assist you if you have any questions about eligibility or any further information you need to look for funding that may be available through our office. We do anticipate additional funding to come through us through the next few months. For that, our Resilient Columbia revolving loan fund, we received some EDA funding that goes through our commercial lending program. It is a revolving loan fund, so as those funds are paid back, we will be able to put that money back into the community through that program. We also have our contractor and supplier diversity area. It provides training and support for city initiatives that's designed to increase local contractors' capacity to compete for government contracts and other procurement opportunities. It's really important to the city that our procurement process reflect the diversity of our great city. So we're proud to offer programs such as the Subcontractor Outreach Program, Mentor Protege, our local business enterprise preference program, and also our Columbia Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. Juliet, Nellie, Latanya, Jeremy, and Kalina Ginyard are in that contractor and supplier diversity area, and they're happy to help answer any questions about doing business with the city or any other type of business that you would like to do. We encourage people to diversify their clients. So with the city, the county, federal government, we're happy to assist in that area. We also have our technical assistance education advocacy. It is a business development assistance and offers courses for startups and existing businesses looking to grow and expand. We offer webinars throughout the year. Year before last, those were in person, but now, of course, due to COVID, we offer those in a webinar format, which has been pretty successful and allows us to reach a greater span of audience. We include topics such as marketing, the use of social media, business plan development, finances, legal issues, and more. And we're always open to other training opportunities that your business may be interested in. You can contact me directly at aisha.driggers@columbiasc.gov, and I'll be happy to discuss some additional training opportunities. We partner with the vast majority of our community partners, so we'll be happy to assist you in making that connection with those partners or offering trainings with our office. We also want to provide, although our physical office is closed, I guarantee you can contact us at this number, 803-545-3950, and our staff will be available to assist you in any of the areas that I listed, or even if you don't even know where to start and you're an entrepreneur, just contact our office and we'll be happy to help you through the process. Our email address is obo@columbiasc.gov. And Kalina's going to share our Resilient Columbia brochure in the chat room. Also, if you have any questions while we're going through this, if you could just type them in the chat, we'll be happy to we'll have opportunities for questions throughout the programming today. So thank you for being here. And we're going to move on to Mr. Greg White. He's the District Director of the Small Business Administration, SBA, or South Carolina District Office. So Greg, you want to get started?
Good morning. Thank you, Melissa, Mayor, and Aisha. Thank you very much for allowing me to participate today. I want to go over a few things that may interest everyone about the SBA itself. We provide 3 to 4 areas of assistance to small businesses. The first one is counseling, and then the second is federal contracting and capital. And then, as we're talking about today, one of the major things we do here recently is the disaster assistance. With our counseling programs, we have small business development centers, SCORE chapters, and women's business centers across the state, which are providing free service for business planning, assistance with your applications, whether it's a financial application, whether it's an application for a license, whatever. This is available to any small business free of charge. All they have to do is contact one of our advantages. We opened up a brand new women's business center yesterday in Charleston. We started the groundbreaking for it yesterday in Charleston. So that's our 3rd one in South Carolina. We have one in Columbia with Benedict College, which has been a very good success and partner. Community Works, which operates statewide, and also now the new one in Charleston. Our contracting programs consist of our women-owned small businesses, small disadvantaged businesses, service-disabled businesses, hub zones. Last year, we did approximately about $8 billion in federal contracting across the state, and we would like to see South Carolina obtain more of those funds for small businesses. Federal contracts are a tremendous ability for small businesses to grow wealth and increase the business for a small business in contracting areas. And finally, the capital side of it is we have guaranteed loans. We have 504 direct loans with low interest rate, long-term financing, microloans. We have a small business investment corporation. So we have all types of financing that's available to small businesses. But let's talk about what we're here for mainly today is disasters. Kind of give you an overview of what's been in the background recently. We've had economic injury and disaster loans under the first program. We put out 47,000 applications and $2.2 billion in South Carolina. With the PPP-1 loans, we put out 67 applications with $5.8 billion worth of funding. Now that we're in the process of the PPP-2, we've nationwide, this is a nationwide number, 60,000 applications with about 3,000 lenders. It's grown more than $5 billion worth of application funding right now, but that's where we were last week. I want to go ahead and encourage you now that if you have some indications of any fraud, just through your applications, please contact our office, and I'll give you my contact information a little later, and we will refer you to the proper process if you have some concerns about your Social Security number, your credit being enhanced by someone that should not have it. So please do so. If we could let's go to the next slide. As Mayor Benjamin mentioned, one of the things that was instrumental in this first round of applications was to get the money out as quick as possible, and it did. We did it in about 14 days, what it usually takes us about 14 years to get done. The second round, the Congress wanted to make sure that we allocated the funds to underserved segments of our society, including women's, minority, and veteran-owned businesses. And they did this by initially opening applications to community financial institutions and with smaller lenders. So we've done that. If you could go next slide, Isha, I appreciate it. On January 11th, it was open for the first draw PPP loan applications just from community financial institutions so that it could get out to these rural areas, minority areas, underserved areas, so that it could have first access to these funds. Then on January the 13th, it opened for second draw PPP loans, which if you got a first draw PPP loan, you could then apply for a second one to get additional funding, again, only from the CFIs, community financial institutions. Then on January 15th, it opened up to first and second draw applications to lending institutions, which were with less than $1 billion in asset. And that was your community banks, typically your credit unions, community banks, but typically ones with less than that. And then on January the 19th, opened up the second draw, first and second to all other application and lending institutions. And I'll go ahead and apologize. My dog always howls when an ambulance or a train goes by. So if you hear it howling in the background, that's what that is. Then finally, now that it's all open for all second draw, we're open all applications to come in. A key date to remember is March the 31st. All PPP applications, whether it's the first or second round PPP, must be submitted at that time unless Congress desires to extend it. That application process will sunset at that time. Next slide, please. Are some changes between the first draw and the second draw. New eligibility consists of housing cooperations, destination marketing organizations, 501c6s, which includes your chambers of commerce, eligible news organizations. So it's that's a change that we did not have. 506 really impacted a lot of the chambers of commerce. That was something that was not covered before. Still eligible are your business entities, sole proprietorships, partnerships, corporations, LLC. Those are still included, along with your 501c3s, your veteran organization, tribal businesses, including faith-based organizations. So that is for the PPP and for the EIDL loans, economic injury and disaster loans. Next slide, please. What is the second draw PPP? What it consists of is if you got a PPP loan, the first one, and now that you have 300 employees or less, and you had a 25% reduction in gross receipts, you can apply for a second round PPP if you had the first round. Typically, the average loan is 2.5 times the average monthly payroll. This time is $2 million loan. Previous loan was $10 million, so a lot of funds got distributed to larger businesses. This time it's restricted to $2 million loans, so hopefully we'll see it go out to more smaller businesses. If you are in a small business and it's in a NAICS code 72, which is your accommodation food services, That's your estimated loan would be 3.5% time your average monthly 219 or 220 payroll, again up to $20 million. There is new forms, and I encourage you to go to our website because the new forms are posted there. When applying to your lender, let me emphasize this is a lender-driven program. The lenders take the applications and submit the applications to SBA. And the forgiveness aspect of it is almost like a grant, although it is a loan for 1% for 5 years. If you meet the requirements for forgiveness, then it is like a grant. The total loan would be forgiven. Again, about 60% of that loan must be used for eligible purposes. And those are listed too. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But it must typically is for rent, mortgage payments, utilities, etc. Next page, please. Second draw eligibility. You must have previously had a first one. Again, you can't have more than 300 employees, and I think we're redundant here. You have to demonstrate a 25% reduction in gross receipts between the comparable quarters. That means if you had a gross income in 2019, you have to, in the first quarter, you have to use the first quarter in 2020 to compare it to. And that's, you can do it for the first, second, third quarter if you need to, but you can do that if necessary. Next slide, please. Another changes in this new round of the disaster assistance program for COVID. Previously, the economic injury and disaster loan advances are no longer deducted from the forgiveness payments. Previously, they were deducted. And if you did have it deducted from your forgiveness payment, that will be reimbursed back to the small business. We'll go ahead and say right now there's proposals to have additional EIDL advances out there. We don't have directions currently from SBA to how that is going to work, but that is something that's in process, and we hopefully see that in the future. Previously, the forgivable PPP loans are not taxable income. We're taxable income now; they're not, and the expenses paid with the PPP loans are not are now tax deductible. And again, make sure you contact the IRS or your CPA to make sure you meet those requirements. Expandable forgiveness is expensible or permissible for loans that have not been forgiven. And there is currently, it's already out there, a simplified application for the PPP loans for $150,000 or less. Next slide, please. What you can do now, again, this is a lender-driven program. If you don't have a lender, we have a program called Lender Match. You can go to sba.gov/lender match, put in your information. What happens is a lender has a certain time frame to respond to any applications that are out there. And if they're interested, they'll send you a direct email asking you to apply through their loan. It's a great way to match up, and I know it's been very successful. Go to our website, sba.gov/PPP. We have current information on the PPP programs and all the COVID funding opportunities that are available through SBA. Also, go to our district office. Our phone number is below, is 765-5377. Our staff is readily available to pick up the phone, talk to you about problems or issues you may have, or give you direction where to get assistance. And you can also go and subscribe to our website and our newsletter, which is there, and get updates on a regular basis, or go to our own website at www.sba.gov/SC. I wanted to mention one other program that's in the works right now. It's called the Shutter Venue Operation Grant. This is a grant to certain venues, entertainment venues that may need assistance, theaters, theater attachments, venue operations, movie theaters, etc. There's a grant program out there proposed. $15 billion, $2 billion goes to 50 employees or less, and $10 million for the larger ones. So that's in process. We don't have final regulations on how that's going to be distributed, but you cannot use this in conjunction with the PPP loans. One other thing, that if you have a current SBA loan, the payments have been being made for you by SBA over the last 5 to 8 months. They're going to extend it for another 3 to 5 months. So that's in process too. And with that, Alicia, I will stop and answer any questions that may be out there.
Yes, thank you so much. That was some great information. And Kalina shared the contact information for USBA in the chat. So does anyone have any questions currently? I don't see any in the chat. So Rosalind Goodwin has a question. What determines if the SBA loan extension is 3 or 5 months?
It depends on when the loan was made. That's pretty much it. They'll look at when the loan was made and how far your extension can go.
Are there currently any additional questions?
No additional questions at this time.
Okay, well, we'll keep it moving. And if you think of any, please add those to the chat and we'll have another opportunity to ask any additional questions. Okay.
We just got one that just came in.
Okay.
Rosalind Goodwin wanted to know, when will the EIDL reopen?
EIDL is open right now. It has really actually never closed. They ran out of funding periodically, but right now the EIDL loan applications are available. The EIDL Advanced, we don't have any direction or time frame when that will open again at this point.
Greg, this is Melissa. I have a question, and I think you may have addressed this, but can you tell us the difference? I know all the issues that we faced and our small businesses faced, trying to understand the actual process before. And it's my understanding SBA has, in their due diligence, went through and made some corrections and tried to streamline some things for this round of PPP. Can you explain the difference? Are there any differences between the submittal requirements for PPP for this round and EIDL versus previously?
Mainly the biggest difference is for the lenders. A new platform was created, making it more simplified for the lender. There also been simplified applications that have been processed for it. Just the volume of loan requests we had through the economic injury and disaster loan kind of backlogged it for a number of period of time. They have worked through a lot of that, so they've caught up with that. That process really has not changed, and we don't expect it to change. But the lender side of it, and Don will speak to this, I'm sure, has gotten a much more simplified application. They have a much more simplified platform to submit borrower applications into SBA and receive the approval and a guarantee. Again, this is a 100% guaranteed loan by SBA, 1% for 5 years, 100% forgivable if they meet the requirements and submit the proper documentation.
Thank you. And what about a list of those participating banks? I'm sorry, Kalina.
That's okay.
They can go definitely to the lender match is a key place to go. They can also go to our website. We have a list of our lenders through our website that are available.
Okay, and we just got another question in the chat from Ms. Rosalind Goodwin. She wanted to know, can a business reapply for EIDL if denied before, and can a business apply for a second EIDL?
You can only get one EIDL unless there was some problems with the first one as far as incorrect submission of data, income verification. You could go back after expiration, but you only get one economic injury and disaster loan. But if you haven't applied before, or either got turned down before and you want to apply again, yes, the portal is open for applications.
Okay, and we just got another question from Pamela Kempson Mack. She wanted to know if you could tell the audience the difference between the EIDL versus the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP.
The EIDL is a loan. It's not a grant. There's no forgiveness of it. That there is a grant. Again, there was an advance early on, up to 10,000 max for each business, but that advance has not been initiated again. So that is a loan. It can be 30 years, low interest rate, up to $150,000 right now. The PPP is a loan, but it's a forgivable loan, 100% guaranteed by SBA, and can be forgiven by the bank. So it actually ends up being like a total grant once it's completed. So if the meet documentation is provided to the lender, then the loan is forgiven 100%. So it actually becomes like a grant.
Okay. There's no more questions right now, but if there are more that come up, we will answer them when we get another break.
Thank you, Kalina.
Thank you, and I'll be on the online. We're ready for any additional questions.
Thank you, Greg. All right, so now we're going to move on to Optus Bank. Dominik Mjartan is President and CEO of Optus Bank, a U.S. Treasury certified community development financial institution, and a MDI, which is an FDIC designated minority depository institution. Dominik came to Optus Bank in the fall of 2017 as president and CEO. He, along with his family, joined successful entrepreneurs Chairman Mitchell and Director Lloyd as an investor to build the bank into a transformational wealth building ministry that serves all people, regardless where they are in their wealth building journey. Under his leadership, Optus Bank reached over $185 million in assets, up from the low of $47 million, while directing nearly 90% of loans to underserved communities, businesses, and people. Thank you so much for joining us, Dom, and we look forward to hearing your presentation.
Well, thank you very much. I'm most grateful for this opportunity to hopefully share some helpful resources and tips for the small businesses in our community. And if we could jump to the next slide. Next slide, please. Just as a backdrop, and I appreciate you sharing the kind information about our history, but we are very proud of our legacy as the only African-American bank in South Carolina and one of 18 nationally, but also we're the only bank in Colombia today based in Colombia. Excuse me. So we really have benefited greatly from our relationship with Melissa, with Mayor Benjamin, and of course, the leadership of the SBA with Greg for the state has been instrumental in our growth and allowing us to bring over $200 million in capital into South Carolina and much of that into Richland County in Columbia. So we're really grateful for the leadership and opportunity to participate in the economy in Columbia and have such a strong support from the city of Columbia in particular and the other institutions like the SBA. Next slide, please. So the purpose of our discussion today is really to provide some helpful tips to speed up the process and channel more capital to our small businesses. Joining me today is my most capable and experienced banking friend and colleague, Reggie Weber, who is our Chief Credit Officer. And Reggie and his team have been working just about 24/7 over the last few weeks processing PPP loans. So he's going to join me and provide his expertise and input on each of the points and hopefully make it as productive for the team here and for everyone joining us. The key points I would make at the outset is really the purpose is not to promote Optus Bank or offer more capacity of our capacity, although we are wanting to serve as many businesses as we can. It's really to make sure that the small businesses are equipped to pursue the funding. And I will tell you, every day, Reggie and I find new businesses that are still not aware that they even qualify, or they think they don't qualify. Everyone from sole proprietors to independent contractors, they just don't think that they are qualified, even though they suffer greatly under the pandemic. So part of our mission today is to build awareness and make sure that we channel as much capital into businesses as we can to help them make it through the pandemic and also be positioned for growth and success and job creation in the coming weeks and months. So with Reggie's leadership, we were able to launch a very streamlined application process. And as Greg pointed out, our applicants are now able to access really a 5-step application, and we'll walk you through it. Again, what we're going to show you is Optus Bank portal, but it is very relevant to any other financial institution that you would be seeking a PPP loan from today. Most of the steps are very similar. So we want to make sure that we give you all the help and advice we can. There are 3 different pathways, as Greg mentioned. There are first-time PPP applicants that did not receive a PPP application last year for whatever reason. They may not have been aware of it, or they may not have qualified for reasons that may not be related to the qualifications we'll talk about. Then there are returning PPP applicants, which those are those that did receive a first draw PPP loan and have continued to suffer under the pandemic, and now had experienced a drop in their revenues and qualify for second draw. And then there are those that did not get a loan with Optus Bank in the first place. They received a PPP loan from another institutions, but we're seeing a good influx of those as well that just simply want to work with us for various reasons. And so we're seeing 3 types of applicants today. Next slide, please. Okay, so in general terms, on our website, you will find overview of the required documents. One of the key obstacles we're finding, this is a key issue for our customers and our borrowers, is they start the process and don't have all the documents ready. And then they get halfway through it and cannot complete the application. And we have to reach out to them, and really slows down the process. So I'm going to pause here and ask my colleague Reggie to provide any highlights from this particular document screen, to just find out what are the issues that we're seeing the most, and what should small businesses make sure that they have ready before they click the link to apply. Reggie?
Thank you, Don, for the introduction. And hi, everyone. The biggest thing that we're sort of seeing is, to your point, is they're starting the application without reading the resources that are actually on our website to help them complete the application, meaning the documentation requirements. And so what we're sort of seeing is they'll start an application and realize they need documentation that they don't have readily available, and they're stopping. And so we're having to call out and reach back out to them again to clarify what's missing, versus reading on the front end what's on our website, the materials there about eligibility and documentation.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. We'll quickly walk through it and really take a little bit more time on the actual application screens. But on our website, you will find the resources, whether you're a first-time applicant or a returning second draw applicant. We try to make it as streamlined as possible. Let's go on to the next slide. Again, we want to highlight the areas that create the most confusion, and we're finding ourselves answering those questions for our small businesses. So I'm going to see if Reggie, if you have any guidance for the returning second draw applicants, and what are the greatest issues we're seeing with those applications?
The biggest issue that we're seeing is the questions we get around what is used to substantiate your reduction, and the reduction itself is what qualifies you for the second draw initially, meaning you have to have a 25% reduction from the equivalent quarter in 2019, or on an annualized basis. And so the documentation really varies based on the entity type and how you file your taxes. But that's sort of the biggest thing we're getting is borrowers are asking, well, what particular documentation do I need to substantiate that reduction? And that's gross revenues. And so it's not net income, it's gross revenues is what qualifies you initially for that second draw.
And Reggie, can you also educate us on what documentation is required for those with 150,000 and amount and lower, or above $150,000?
Well, according to the guidance that was put out, documentation under 150,000 has to be submitted to the institution prior to the forgiveness. So that's one of the streamlined areas that the SBA has put out there. But any loan amount above 150, you're required to substantiate that prior to receiving funds from the SBA. And the biggest thing too is, Optus is here to help. So we want to make sure that what we give you, you qualify for, and what you get, you're able to get forgiven. And so that's the biggest thing. One of the challenges we would face would be if you received an advance from the SBA and you were not able to get it forgiven, that can be a burden later on. And so we want to make sure that we're there to assist you along the way.
Great. Thank you, Reggie. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's launch into it. We just want to walk you through quickly our process, but like I said, we've seen some other banks portals, and they look very similar, follow the general same path. And I will say, from my experience, we're finding the biggest challenges is customers are trying to quickly apply and miss a key field, and then really slows them down. So we are encouraging everyone to please look at every field on this application and complete it so that your application doesn't get slowed down or rejected because you missed something. We have a whole team that is following up with each customer, but as you can imagine, that really slows down the process and funding to the business. So we want to make sure that we give you the resources needed to make it as seamless as possible. So the basic components of the application are really information about the business, any personal information about the borrowers, the guarantors, depending on the type of business. And the way that we built our portal, it's pretty intelligent in a way that it really tries to select only the fields that are relevant to a particular type of business. So you don't have to really answer questions or provide documents that are not necessary for your situation. Reggie, would you like to comment just kind of on the flow, and then also how you designed this process to minimize that hardship on the businesses in terms of documents?
Certainly, Dom. So the application is intuitive, and it'll change based on the information that you submit. So whether or not your first draw, second draw, it's going to change the information it's asking for along the way. And for existing customers who had a PPP loan with us prior, we're able to send out a link which partially fills in your application to help streamline the process as well.
Great. Next slide, please. Some of the information we already talked about, but this is an input screen. We tried to make it, again, very seamless. Next slide, please.
Dom, I have one question. Can you go back 2 more slides? Right here, the sections that are left blank, is that okay? I know this is a test, so does an applicant need to complete these? If they have their tax ID number, they need to make sure that's in there. And the industry code, that's based on the type of industry that they're in, correct? Can you share that? Right.
They have to complete every one of the fields. And I just looked at a few minutes ago before the webinar an application that someone couldn't complete because they didn't complete their NICS code. So that's a roadblock. They don't complete it, it won't let them move to the next screen. Reggie, you have anything else to add on that?
No, you're correct, Dom. There's required fields in the application, and it won't let you go through the submission without completing it.
So you do not need to complete your tax ID number, your gross annual revenue.
You do need a tax ID number, yes.
So those fields actually, even though they're blank here, they actually need to be completed on your actual application.
Yeah, that's a test file there.
Okay.
Yeah, every field you see, especially those that have an asterisk by them, typically they have to be completed. All right, let's get back to the additional info. I'll go back 1 slide, please. Okay, right here. So the forms are pretty helpful, where anything that is critically important will typically be highlighted in red as you're navigating through the screens. So we're finding customers ignore it, and then they can't get to the next screen, and again, it slows down the whole process. So we're just asking everyone to really make sure they complete it, because it's not something that, if it's not required, we're not asking for it. We're not trying to get any more information than we are required to gather. So this is not something that the bank requires. These are a lot of the rules that we're trying to follow that were issued by the SBA. Let's go on to the additional info, and then next slide, please. Okay, perfect. This is where we need to be. So, Reggie, if I can ask you just to talk about the different types of businesses that are applying and what documentation they need, because we're finding some confusion about it. But even this form should make it a little streamlined, so we're not asking you for documents you don't need. Reggie?
Yeah, so as I said, this is a test account, so it's slightly different, but the actual documents change based on what you input. So the biggest thing that we're seeing is, the revenue reduction, which varies by entity type, and there's a lot of information about the particulars on what qualifies you. So, for instance, a lot of our borrowers happen to be a Schedule C filer, meaning they file on the Schedule C of their personal tax return. And so with that, we're able to utilize the gross revenues from there to indicate the eligibility for either their second draw, and actually if it's a first draw as well. And so that's sort of the biggest things that we're seeing from our borrowers is the particular documentation to substantiate any reduction in the gross revenues, and also any particular additional documentation, such as if their payroll information changed from 2019 to 2020. So the borrower has the ability to elect which periods to use. And so we've had some confusion around that as well.
Great, thank you, Reggie. We'll come back to that if there are any questions specifically about it. But let's go to the next slide. Okay, we're finding also a lot of customers will get to this stage and then they forgot to click submit application. So please, if you get to this stage, you see a message of congratulations, but you still need to go ahead and submit it. And then we are also finding a lot of customers are checking back, if the application was submitted. Our system generates a confirmation email that you should receive once you actually successfully submit it. So if you don't see that confirmation email, go back. You can log in back into your application. You don't have to call us or email us. You can log back in and go through that process to make sure you actually click submit. Let's go to the next slide and we'll open it up for questions after that. So these are a few quick guidelines that our PPP processing team generated. And Reggie already covered the first one and the second one. We want to make sure that we minimize the hardship, but at the same time, we don't want to have to go back and chase documents later on. So it's better if the customers complete everything up front. If you receive an email or a question from your lending institution, time is of the essence. Please respond quickly to it, because they have your application in the queue and are ready to submit it to the SBA. We're finding that it is generally taking a few days to gather all the documents to do quality control, and then the SBA is also, unlike last time, the SBA is taking a day or two to review each application. Before, the approval numbers were issued almost automatically. That's not the case this time. So we're hearing some lenders are telling their customers, hey, you get an instant approval or same day approval. Well, that's really virtually impossible. So if you're hearing from a lender out there saying get a same day approval, I don't see how they're doing it. Maybe there's some magic we're not aware of, but the SBA is taking some time to approve applications. So please be patient. Know that your lender is working on it for you. And if you have any questions about it or uncertainty, feel free to reach out. Reggie, anything else that you want to highlight or additional information would be helpful?
No, I think you covered it well, Dom. The biggest thing is information and access to information, right? And that's kind of why we're here, is to help disseminate some of the misinformation out there, but also to help you be able to get access to capital. And so, certainly appreciate the time that you gave us, and we'll be here to answer any questions as well.
Dom and Reggie, thank you so much. I have one question. I know for us with our Resilient Columbia loan applications that we're receiving, one of the problems that we have is the documentation and making sure you submit that. So even though you think you submitted everything and you get that congratulations button up there, there still may be some things that are missing, correct? Or you may have some other clarifying questions that you may need to ask them. Can you go through the documentation for us one more time, just so people can see that list again? And they need to understand that it's not just you asking for that information, it's part of the requirements for the program itself.
You want to highlight the ones that most common documents that we are?
Those documents that you really need. Yeah, I don't know if you want to go back to that slide or not. Either you or Reggie, I think that may help us.
So most of the applicants that we see are either partnerships or frequently are Schedule C, sole proprietors. We have some customers that have actual payroll, that have W-2 payroll. Those can be very complicated. So the documentation, Melissa, really depends on the type of business.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you receive your income through a partnership, then your K-1 is going to be the key driving force for that documentation in terms of the loan amount. Okay, for the qualification, like Reggie mentioned, we're looking at comparison of the income, or in terms of the second draw, we're not looking at the bottom line income, unlike it was in the first round. We're looking at the top, the gross receipts. So what we're trying to verify is that the customer knows that their gross receipts dropped by more than 25% in any quarter or two parallel quarters between 2019 and 2020. So the documentation does depend on the type of business. We're finding some businesses don't have quarterly statements, but they have annualized statements for 2019 and 2020. We're also offering some businesses just a sample form that they can complete and attest that it is correct, because a lot of them don't have their 2020 taxes done yet. Most don't. So the documentation is really self-prepared frequently. So again, it depends on the type of business, on how they file their taxes, and how they how they track their gross revenues or receipts to show that decline of 25%. Reggie, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you covered it well. It varies, and there's a lot of guidance out there from the SBA on specifics. But what we're seeing ourselves is really a lot of Schedule C businesses, primarily in a lot of second draws. So the guidance is a little different for second draws, meaning you have the revenue component, whereas in the first draw, depending on whether or not you have employees or not, you're really looking at the net income.
Thank you.
And we have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Before we get to the questions in the chat, I think Ruth has a question.
Yes, I was going back to the background of the business, and I was wondering, I saw a little small paragraph there. What if you have a business plan and you've updated it for this year? And, it's a couple of pages, but it's very detailed. Is that beneficial in getting the loan? If you not just background of the business, but you have an actual business plan with specific numbers in there.
For a PPP loan, are you asking specifically about a PPP loan?
Yes, the PPP loan. Yes.
Yeah, for PPP loan, we don't really have to consider anything regarding the business plan, other than the documentation of the financials, financial condition of the business, the existence of the business, and if you're applying for a second draw, we're verifying the decline in gross receipts between the 2 years. But business plan doesn't have any direct bearing on any of that.
So submitting that wouldn't make any difference. Okay, my other, about the loan authorization and agreement, doesn't that have to be within the board resolution? When you have a meeting, don't you have to have an authorized signature based on your board resolution?
That would depend on the type of business. Again, if you're a nonprofit, you know, who is allowed to sign and commit the organization to this. It just depends on the type of entity, whether you need that resolution to verify that you're the appropriate and rightful signer on the loan agreement.
Because I didn't see that as a download document.
And Dom, I'll chime in here. So one of the certifications you're making on the application is that you're authorized to conduct business as well. So, you know, if you're unable to do that, you wouldn't be completing the application piece.
Oh, so that's an assumption when you sign off on it.
It's one of the certifications you have to attest to.
I see. And with the that list of additional information, you had tax years 2017, 16, and 15. What years are they actually requesting? Is it 18, 19? Or is 17, 18, 19 instead of 15, 16, and 17 was on that sample?
It would only be 19 and 20. This is a test account, and so it had some,
right.
A little bit of different information in it, but it's 19 and 20 depending on you know, first or second draw.
Because most people have not finished the 20. I know it just ended, and you know, you're given a tax lien of February or something to file that. But so you send in 19, and then you're waiting for 20 before any loan is money is issued. Is that correct?
It would depend on whether or not it's the first or second draw. So that the you know, you have the option of using either period, but we understand that the 2020 tax returns for most people are not filed, and so part of the requirements of that SBA put out in their FAQs recently is that, you know, you have to attest to it, i.e. by signing it, that, you know, essentially you intend to file that. So.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Kalina, you want to go to our chat?
Yes, I have two questions. The first one is from Mr. Andrew Smalls with the South Carolina Commission of Minority Affairs. He wants to know, is this process the same everywhere? If you want to be a little specific.
Yeah, I'd like to hear a little bit more what the PPP process, generally speaking, you know, is very close, but the rules are the same, right? So it's how the lender chooses to follow those rules in terms of what sequence or what their internal process. I can't comment on that, so I don't know if it's the same. If I understand the question correctly.
I'm sorry, he just replied, he said every institution.
Don, I can respond to that.
Please.
SBA issues regulations that are nationwide, and they have to comply with those regulations in each state, each district office. So if they would like, and Treasury gives us the approval for that, so they can either go to treasury.gov or either sba.gov and find the regulations that apply nationwide.
Okay, thank you, Greg. And the next question is from Ms. Naidra Edwards. She wanted to know, what if my business opened in the third quarter of 2019 and my gross comparisons don't accurately reflect true decline numbers compared to 2020?
I don't know, Greg, I may have to defer to you on that one, but that's, you know, there are specific guidelines that we're following in terms of what time period to use. So I don't know, Greg or Reggie, you want to comment on that?
They have to be at least comparable quarters or either an annualized basis. There's no exception to that. It's pretty much the way it has to be.
Okay, we have someone that has their hand raised. iPhone, if you could go ahead and ask your question.
Yes. I was wondering, I got a second round first draw, And so what would I go for after that? It was $20,700 on the PPP loan. Can you hear me?
Yes. So you got a second loan or a first loan?
So I put in for the very first loan and I never got anything for the EIDL or whatever that is called. And then I put in for the second round, first draw for the PPP loan just recently and got the 20,700. But I have a loan at Bank of the West, and what I'm wanting to do is just use the money towards the loan we owed there. We was very difficult paying just the payment, so they wanted us to try to get this loan to go towards that note, another note.
And can you clarify your question, please?
My question is, what would be my next step to be able to get another PPP loan to go towards it? Because that's the payment alone was $80,000 a year.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Well, I'm not aware of that you could again apply for another PPP loan.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, I don't think you can get another I'm pretty sure you cannot get another PPP loan other than the second draw. So you could theoretically get up to 2 PPP loans, one in 2020 in the last round and one this round.
Okay, so you're saying I can't do another one then from this point on?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we got another question in the chat from Such and Such LLC. They want to know, how long is the typical loan process from origination to funding?
A lot of that depends on the application, how well it's completed. We've done some in less than 3 days, and we have some that we've been trying to do for 10 days because the documentation is incomplete. So a lot of that just depends on how complete that application is, but the SBA typically reviews them. I don't know, Reggie, maybe you can comment on them, but generally in 2 or 3 days, we've gotten the feedback from the SBA. Is that correct, Reggie, or what else are you seeing?
Yeah, that's correct. The SBA is taking anywhere between 2 to 3 days to give us a decision on it, or resolve any sort of issues that may come up. So one of the things that they're also doing with the new process is doing more verifications to make sure and help eliminate fraud. And so it's taking a little bit longer to get a decision from them than the prior round.
Okay, there are no questions coming up right now, and I don't see any other hands raised right now. Oh, wait a minute, one just popped up from, I'm sorry, Aisha, from DJTO. Is it best to apply with a bank that you have a relationship with?
Yeah, yes, we're advising customers if you've got a first PPP loan from one lender, we love your business, but also we want to be transparent that the best chance you probably have is go back to the same lender that you got your first PPP loan, because they should have all the information on file. So the general advice we give: go back to your existing institution. They're more likely to have all your information. Not necessarily they're more likely to be responsive, but they should have more of your information. Should make it easier. And also one tool that Reggie did a great job building for us is a lot of our existing customers actually receive a personalized link to their application that has some of the information already in it, so it minimizes the hardship on the borrower to apply. So if your lending institution did your first loan, go back to them for the second loan. If you didn't get a first loan somewhere else, go back to an institution that you have a relationship with, where you can call someone and they will take your call. You're not just a number. You actually have a relationship with someone. So if you do have some trouble or need guidance or support, you know who to call and they can help you through that process.
Okay, Ms. Veranda, like you had another question? You're muted, Ms. Veranda.
Okay. Listening to the other answers, I was thinking about, okay, if you said 2 to 3 days that some loans have gone through up to 10, would a problem be the amount of money requested was too much, or that's not the case? It's always documentation.
Yeah, the money has nothing to do with it in our case. I can't speak for the other lenders, but we treat all borrowers the same, first come, first serve. We process it as quickly as we can. And what we are finding is some of the smaller businesses have more difficult time getting all the information. So there may be a correlation, which is what I think the mayor was referencing too, that some small businesses really did not get served as well. And the big reason they didn't is because, you know, they don't have the fancy accountants and lawyers to do their applications. So that could lead to a slower process for the very small businesses that may not have all the information as readily available as the large businesses. But in our case, what I can speak to is what we do at Optus Bank, and to us, the loan amount, the type of business, makes no difference to us.
Okay, and my other thing was, if you have a relationship with a bank that you're currently trying to refinance a mortgage, is that going to affect your need for your company for this PPP loan?
I don't know if it's going to affect the need for the PPP, but we have customers that receive PPP loans and subsequently refinance their properties or their loans with us. Again, those two should have nothing to do with each other.
So that has happened at the same time with your bank?
Oh yeah, in fact, recently we've done some of that where we had a customer with a PPP loan and they wanted to refi their loan, or their loan matured, they were refinancing it. So yeah, it's not unusual.
So I was just saying, so if you're applying for refinancing, you should still stick with your bank for the PPP.
It depends on your relationship with them. I can't speak to that. If you have a relationship with a lender that you can call and they will help you, then I'd go with that.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
This is Greg. If I could step in just a minute. People who are looking for additional loans, one thing that I didn't mention on my presentation about the SBA loans, if somebody's looking for a new loan, and there are a lot of new loans still going on, South Carolina is very favored in that our economic conditions are a lot better than some of the other states, but our loan guarantees have increased. We're a 90% guarantee on 7A loans, and we've increased our Small Business Express lending from $350 to $1 million loans, and we're considering reducing our loan fees too. So if you're looking for just a loan outside of the PPP or the EIDL, something to grow your business or refinance your business, etc., there's some advantages there to continue to stimulate the economy.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Our next question is from Jennifer. She wants to know, so if you get the second loan for the first loan that you did not receive, is there still a PPP loan that I may receive? Because basically it's the first loan.
I can try to do that. If you applied for one a PPP loan and you were turned down initially, you can reapply for the second round. It doesn't. If you did not receive one, you'd have to apply for the PPP 2. But if you did not receive a PPP 1 loan, you can reapply for this round.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Next question is from DJTO, and this is a 3-parter, so y'all bear with me, please. So if you never got the PPP loan at all, go through your bank to apply. And if you never gotten it at all, are you able to apply for both or more this time? Or is it the case if you missed the last application process, you just apply for this round?
Well, Greg, feel free to comment on it. Why don't you take it? I can add.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, that's if you never applied for PPP loan, you have the opportunity to apply for PPP round now. You cannot have applied for the PPP 2 unless you apply for the PPP 1. Same thing for the economic injury loan. If you did not apply for the economic injury loan earlier, you can apply for one now. That portal has been open and will stay open It doesn't restrict you for it, but that's the only limitations out there. Dom, you want to add to that?
Yep. Yeah, we are getting questions about the rules to, what's changed with the rules if you didn't get a loan in the first round and now you're coming back, the rules generally apply in the first round. They're still based on essentially what would be equivalent of wages. It's a paycheck protection loan. So we're answering some questions for customers about if I didn't get the first one, do I still qualify? And if so, what do I need to do to qualify?
Okay.
Yeah,
We have a
the first round regulations are still in place for PPP 1. PPP 2 bases it on the loss, gross revenues, and the loss over a period of time, where the previous one was basically payroll.
Okay, and thank you, Greg and Dominik. We have another question for iPhone. iPhone, you had another question? Your hand was raised. Okay, I guess they don't have any question. And there are no more questions in the chat right now, Aisha.
Okay, thank you, Kalina. You always do a great job with those questions. If anyone has any additional questions for Dom, Reginald, or Greg, please feel free.
We just had another one pop up in the chat box, Kalina.
What, this is also from Suds and Such. What is the minimum approved loan amount? And is there a DTI guideline?
There's no. So the answer is there's no minimum and there's no guidance. We've had loans as small as $500, and on the PPP loans, we're not required to calculate any debt to income or underwrite the loan in the traditional way.
Okay. Greg, you want to add to that?
No, that's it. There's no minimum.
Okay.
Maximum is a $2 million for the second round. It's was a $10 million max for the first round.
Okay, and the last question from Zanata. We will have this available. Our participants will be receiving this later on today, Aisha, the presentation?
Yes, we will send a survey link to the recording and the presentation to everyone who registered. If you didn't register and you need this information, just contact our office. You can send us an email at obo.columbiasc.gov and we'll make sure to get you that information. We'll also have it available on our Facebook page and our website. Thank you, Kalina. So feel free to, while we go through there, we have a couple more slides. If you have any questions, please add those to the chat. The City of Columbia, our Office of Business Opportunity, is proud to have so many partnerships with our business community. So I did want to give an opportunity. I think we have some representatives on the call if they would like to share any information. The first one is South Carolina MBDA Business Center. And they are available if any business needs assistance in preparing their PPP application, or if they have questions on how to qualify or get started, or if their loan will be forgiven. They provided a link to get assistance and set up an appointment. And I believe we have a couple of representatives if they would like to unmute their mic and just introduce themselves.
Thank you, Aisha. This is Camille Shaw, and I serve as the project director of the South Carolina MBDA Business Center. I think you explained it well. Our role is to support the minority business community. So we are available to provide support if you need assistance with your PPP application process. If you just follow the instructions on the slides, someone will reach out to you and support you with your endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Camille. We appreciate that. Also, the Benedict College Women's Business Center is another resource. We're proud of our partnership with them. And I believe Cheryl Sally may be on the call. Let me see if she's still on here.
Yes, good afternoon. And thank you all so much to everyone for such a great presentation and much needed information. about the loan and this process. We're here at the Benedict College Women's Business Center to assist through this process as the other resource providers, but I'll put our information, the website for anyone who wants to sign up for consultations, and my email address as well as the phone number. We provide general business development services. Our focus is on women-owned small business, particularly women of color in underserved communities, but we do help anyone in business, small businesses and minority businesses. We do a lot with business planning, business development, positioning for lending, getting the loans, traditional and alternative lending. But we're here to assist. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cheryl. And then also, I don't think we have anyone from SBDC on here, but I do want to provide their contact information. They are also a great resource to entrepreneurs or small businesses that need assistance, whether it be with their business plan or preparing the PPP application as well. So I've provided Alan Brown's contact information here, and he can be contacted via email or phone. He'll be happy to provide assistance to you as well. So that's all. As Kalina said, we will provide a survey, also the slides, and a recording of today's webinar. And I'll also provide some additional links to upcoming webinars. If anyone's interested in receiving our weekly newsletter, please contact our office at obo@columbiasc.gov. We provide a lot of great information regarding resources to business, upcoming webinars, and funding opportunities. So we'll be happy to add you to the newsletter. Melissa?
Thank you. Thank you, Aisha, Kalina, and our team. I want to say a special thank you to Aisha and Kalina for getting this done so quickly. I want to thank our panelists, the mayor, Dominik. You always are a great partner. SBA, we work hand in hand with you also. I want to encourage you not to be discouraged. And I have dogs too, so I apologize. Every time I start talking, they want to talk and they're outside. But I want to make sure to encourage you about not being afraid of this application process. You have a number of partners that are available for you. Close my window. That are available to help you and walk you through the process. We're here. If we have a question or we can't not answer the question for you, we will direct you to an appropriate partner that can. The Women's Business Center. Excellent, excellent resource. Cheryl Sally and her staff. SBA is, again, a great partner of ours, and you have SCORE. So we have a number of resources available for you. All you have to do is reach out to us, and we will connect you. I want to again thank Dominik. Thank you so much, Greg, for always being there and your willingness to partner with us to make sure that we're giving access to those that don't often have it. That's the purpose of our office. I know that's the core of what Dominik does at Optus Bank, is to make sure everyone has access to opportunities to grow, develop, and be a contributing citizen here in Columbia. And we encourage you to do so. I want to also recognize Brett Whiting. I wanted to give him an opportunity to talk a little bit about the Resilient Columbia, since we have a little time left, our Resilient Columbia loan program. Kalina, do you mind showing that brochure on the screen?
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. We have some resources here, not only our Resilient Columbia application that we just received, our Resilient Columbia loan program that we just initialized today or this year. I'm sorry, not in October of last year. But we have loans available anywhere. Really, there's no real minimum amount, but they go all the way up to $200,000. We have about half of those resources left right now. We have about a little left to still lend. We have set aside some funding, especially for those small businesses that need access to funds right away. It's not a whole lot of money that you need. Say you only maybe need $10,000, $20,000. We have that for you. Again, our parameters for lending is very, very, very small. And I'll let Brad just talk a little bit about that program while Kalina tries to bring that up.
I already have it up.
Thank you, Clint. Well, right now we just see your file screen. We don't actually see the document.
Oops, my bad.
That's all right.
Let's try it again.
Brad, are you still on the line?
Yes. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone that's on the call, and thank you, Melissa, for the introduction. Yeah, we have EDA CARES Act funds that are available to anyone that has a business and the business is housed within the corporate limits of the City of Columbia. As Melissa said, we have these funds available. We have streamlined the application process. We have also streamlined the requirements to qualify for.
Lena's still not.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We have streamlined the process so these funds are readily available, and the qualifications, as I stated earlier, are have been eased. We're intending to get these funds in the hands of many of the folks that haven't or won't necessarily qualify for some of the other lending, such as the PPP program, for whatever reasons. So again, we're trying to help as many people as we can. We receive these funds, and it seemed like a generous amount that we initially received, but we found pretty early on that the need outweighs the amount that we have. But we're working as quickly and as efficiently as we can to get these needs addressed. I am available and have been available for any questions, any follow-up. We, as with other lending institutions, run into the same sorts of things with lack of proper documentation and expressing the need. One of the things that's most important when applying for these funds is tying that need to the purpose of the intent of these funds. And the intent is to relate these fund needs to something that's been negatively affected by the CARES Act, the COVID-19 pandemic. So if the business has been negatively affected, we would like for you, or we need for you to associate that with it being negatively affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. But again, if there's any more specifics that you have, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm available most every day. So, and if I'm not available at that time, I will get back to you by close of business the very next day. Are there any questions that anyone has for me?
Nothing in the chat right now, but I've provided the link to our website, and it's columbiasc.gov/OBO. And at the top of the page, there's a commercial loans link, and we have all the information on the Resilient Columbia CARES Act Revolving Loan Fund at the top of the commercial loans page. And I also provided the contact information. I just gave our general number, 545-3950, and our general address if you have any questions for Brett regarding the revolving loan fund.
Thank you, Brad. And I also want to reiterate the documentation required for loans under $50,000 or less is much less paperwork. We're actually requiring less documentation there than those requests over 50,000. So again, do not be afraid of the process for either this application or PPP. Everything's been simplified because we know that our small businesses need these resources right away. I think that's all that I have. I want to ask Dominik or Greg if there's anything else that you would care to share before we close.
I would just like to take this opportunity to thank y'all for participating and allowing us to participate, and really do want to encourage you, if you've got any hesitancy about filing an application, please go to one of our partners, Women's Business Center, SCORE chapters, or SBDC. They can assist you with the application and gather the financial information so that when you do go to a lender such as Dom, that is prepared and they're in their best shoot. Your first impression is always the best impression. So if you get it together and go in there, you'll have a good chance of getting successful. So thank you very much, Alicia, Mayor, and Melissa. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thanks, Greg. Dom?
I just want to reiterate appreciation, Melissa, for your leadership at the city to channel support and capital to these businesses. And please reach out to us if we can be helpful. Look forward to another opportunity to speak with any and all of you.
Thank you so much. And I want to let everyone know MBDA, they're excellent partner. They're also available if you need assistance in preparing your PPP application, and also assistance in preparing any type of loan application that you're trying to submit for funding. Be on the lookout for additional webinars that will be forthcoming, not only in regards to PPP, but also some, programs to help you strengthen and build your infrastructure, your financial infrastructure, making sure you have that part of your business in order as you go after these funds. The better prepared you are, the more successful you will be at securing capital for your business. So, Aisha, I want to turn it back over to you, the real boss of this webinar, to see if there's any other things that you would like to say. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Aisha, great job. Kalina, great job. And thank you, our small business community, for always being there and keeping your support strong. But we're here to help you if you need anything.
Thank you, Melissa. I just reiterate, if anyone on the call needs additional assistance or you have a question and you don't know where to start, please feel free to contact our office and we'll connect you with the appropriate agency if it's not us. Also, we want to say thank you to the Columbia Public Relations Department for helping us share this on our Columbia YouTube page. That they do a wonderful job of making sure that we promote our activities that are going on with the city, and we really appreciate that. Also, the additional city staff that I didn't mention earlier, Tanya Porter DeBerry, Carla Eichelberger, and LaPetra Collins. They touch all aspects of our department. So sometimes I forget to mention them, but we appreciate all of our city staff. So with that, I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and look forward to an email from me in a couple of hours. Thank you so much and stay safe.